Speaking of the most famous female historical figures in Europe, Austria's Empress Elizabeth is definitely on the list. This 19th century empress of the Austro-Hungarian Empire had a more intimate name among the people, Princess Sisi. Princess Sisi's original name was Elizabeth Amalie Eugenie. She was the fourth of 10 children born to Princess Ludovica and Duke Maximilian Joseph of Bavaria. Her story is one that most people are familiar with. Her family had intended to match her sister Helen with the Emperor of Austria-Hungary, Franz Joseph, but the emperor unexpectedly fell in love with the 15-year-old and beautiful Sisi. When the Persian king saw Sisi for the first time, he exclaimed, "How beautiful she is," ignoring all the customary protocol. Indeed, Sisi's beauty was renowned, and she was known as one of the most beautiful princesses in 19th century Europe and the most beautiful empress in Austrian history. Even today, people still marvel at her legendary beauty regimen. However, Sisi was not born with natural beauty. In fact, during her adolescence, she was even considered to have a peasant girl robustness, full of naive childlike qualities. Because her father loved nature, Sisi did not receive the typical education of a noble lady. She spent a carefree childhood in the embrace of the Bavarian mountains, and the skincare regimen that other young ladies cared about seemed not to be a concern for her, which only changed after she got married. It is not known why Sisi suddenly became obsessed with beauty and skincare, but it is speculated that the reasons may include the fact that she was not highly born and faced invisible discrimination at the court, so her beauty was her weapon and armor, and she had to highly value it. Her husband Franz was busy with work and did not have time to accompany her, so she turned to lengthy skincare routines to pass the boring time. Whatever the reason, it is certain that from after her marriage until her death, Sisi was obsessed with beauty and skincare. Her beauty routine, from a modern perspective, was not just about self-discipline, it was somewhat extreme and self-abusive. For the sake of beauty, Sisi could endure almost anything that ordinary people would find difficult to tolerate. Oh, the horror of growing old, feeling the hands of time on my body, watching my skin wrinkle, waking up afraid of the morning light. A life without beauty is worthless to me, Sisi wrote in her diary. So, how did this beautiful woman maintain her beauty? Sisi has beautiful long hair that reaches down to her ankles. Her thick chestnut locks shine with radiance and are particularly eye-catching in official portraits. Her hair is so long that it almost touches the ground, making it exceptionally heavy, and this is often the reason why Sisi suffers from headaches. Nevertheless, she considers it to be her most precious and beautiful feature. Empress Elizabeth regards her hair as her supreme glory, and nothing pleases her more than when her tresses are unbound, cascading like a waterfall around her. Taking care of this long hair requires at least 3 hours of Sisi's time every day. In the morning, after taking a cold shower, receiving a massage, having a simple breakfast, and doing some exercise, Sisi would sit in a chair to receive her hairdresser, Fanny Pfeifferlich's, services. Her Greek tutor, Constantine Christomenos, described Sisi's hair care ritual. Behind the empress's armchair stands the hairdresser. She plunges her white hands into the waves of hair, rolls them up, strokes them with her fingers as if they were velvet or silk, and the strands cling to her arms like the streaming water of a river. After several hours of combing and weaving, Fanny must submit every strand of fallen hair to the empress for inspection. If too much hair falls out during the process, Fanny will be reprimanded by the empress. Fanny presented the empress with a silver bowl containing fallen hair for inspection. There was a brief moment of interaction between the empress and Fanny, with the empress's expression showing slight disapproval and Fanny's tone carrying guilt and regret. To avoid such situations, Fanny uses various tricks to soothe the empress's fragile nerves and avoid being scolded. She cunningly hides the fallen hair under a tape attached to her apron, and so she often presents the empress with a clean comb at the end of a day's work. Sisi forbids anyone but Fanny from touching her hair and even refuses to attend official events if Fanny is unable to style her hair. Fanny was appointed as the royal hairstylist, with an annual salary of 2,000 guldens. At that time, this salary was considered very high, roughly equivalent to that of a university professor. Fanny's services were very popular, and the braids she weaved for the empress were imitated by women who wanted to replicate Sisi's unique style. Cece's daily hair styling was a sacred ritual. As a time management master, she used the time Fanny spent doing her hair in the morning to read, write letters, and study Greek and Hungarian with her mentor. Daily hair care was only a part of Cece's hair care system. Every 3 weeks, her hair had to be washed and blow-dried, which was a time-consuming process in itself. Every 3 weeks, Cece would wash her hair with raw eggs and brandy, and the hair washing process took a whole day, including drying. After washing her hair, Cece would put on a waterproof gown and walk around until her hair was blown dry by the wind. During this process, Cece suffered from migraines. Her hair was too heavy, and she was well aware that long hair was the cause of her headaches. Whenever the headache struck, she would stay in her apartment, roll up her hair with ribbons to reduce the weight on her head, and let air flow through her hair until the headache disappeared. Cece wrote in her diary, "After a few days of such hair care, I am exhausted. I am a slave to my hair." However, even so, Cece still kept her long hair for life and enjoyed taking care of it. Cece's luxurious skincare routine may not be as time-consuming as hair care, but she still puts a lot of effort into it. Cece's skincare routine includes various beauty secrets and skincare products that complement each other. Olive oil bath. Cece takes a warm olive oil bath every night to keep her skin soft and smooth. This practice is still highly recommended by spas today. Olive oil contains strongly nourishing vitamins A and E, as well as many antioxidants that can prevent environmental toxins. Facial mist. Cece heavily relies on rose or lavender mist to protect her skin from inflammation and infection. Her favorite is violet vinegar, made from fresh-picked violets, apple cider vinegar, and distilled water. Layer the violets, or rose petals, in a bottle, pour apple cider vinegar over them, seal tightly for 2 days, filter out the flowers, and spray the liquid onto your face. Egg white mask. A very simple and effective way to even out skin tone. Cece's favorite mask requires 2 ounces of rose water, 1 ounce of milk, half an ounce of grape juice, and 5 drops of frankincense essential oil. Mix all the ingredients, add egg white, and immediately apply the paste to your face, go to sleep, and wash it off the next morning. Honey strawberry mask. To keep her skin soft, Cece applies pure honey and crushed strawberries to her cheeks, which has a similar effect to modern fruit acid cleansers, exfoliants, and brighteners. By now, you might be feeling a bit overwhelmed, but this is just the very basic skincare routine. Next, Cece has some dark skincare recipes for your reference. Veal mask. Cece is used to applying raw veal slices to her face at night, and then placing a layer of leather mask over it, so the meat remains in contact with her skin while she sleeps. This might sound a bit hard to accept, but according to modern dermatologists, it can have some effect. High vitamin C content has anti-inflammatory effects, and protein elements, keratin, can prevent skin aging. In addition, meat can neutralize harmful metabolites, free radicals. In an era that emphasized the importance of a slim waistline, Princess Cece can be considered a weight loss fanatic. She stood at 172 centimeters tall but only weighed 50 kilograms, and even more shockingly, her waist was only 50 centimeters while her hip measurement was 65 centimeters. Throughout her life, Cece was dedicated to maintaining her slender figure through various means. She even wrapped a cold, damp towel around her stomach while sleeping to keep her abdominal muscles tight and supple. After giving birth to 4 children, she had to resort to even more extreme measures to stay in shape. Firstly, she engaged in unrestrained and extreme dieting. As an empress, Cece never indulged in gourmet food. Her breakfasts were usually meager, and some of her dinners only consisted of thin meat juice. At other times, she would only eat raw chicken, partridges, venison, and a mixture of beef and vegetable juice. For weeks at a time, Cece would only consume eggs, oranges, and raw milk. Violet marmalade from Demel Cake Shop was perhaps the only luxury food she allowed herself. Furthermore, Cece frequently purchased laxatives. Secondly, she engaged in extensive and intense exercise. Cece was one of the best equestrians of her time, but when horseback riding began to cause her joint pain, she turned to excessive walking. Walking was a recommended exercise for women at the time, but Sisi's walking was more like a march. She enjoyed taking long-distance walks lasting up to 10 hours, and not even the protests of her maidservants could dissuade the empress. In addition, Sisi was obsessed with weightlifting and engaged in this activity almost every day. This pastime drew criticism from many courtiers and physicians because it is considered an eccentric and anachronistic form of exercise. After all, who wanted a sweating empress? However, Sisi completely ignored others' opinions and even installed fitness equipment in the rooms of Hofburg Palace and Schönbrunn Palace. People often see the empress swaying back and forth on the swing. In the last few years of her life, Sisi became even more obsessed with slimming down. At the age of 50, she began practicing fencing and exercised 3 times a day, relying on fresh milk, egg whites, beef juice, and fruit ice cream as sustenance. Sisi's efforts did pay off, and she maintained her youthful appearance well into middle age. At the age of 40, Sisi decided to stop taking photographs so that people would always remember her youthful appearance. To avoid photographers, she would cover her face with a fan or parasol when going out. The photographers of that era were very frustrated. They even added wrinkles to her existing photos to imagine her latest appearance. As a compulsive narcissist, Sisi became the biggest prisoner of her beauty and gradually withdrew from public life in her later years. The beauty of Empress Elizabeth was a myth and is still considered one of the most beautiful women of that era. However, all of this came at a cost, almost bordering on self-torture.